Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. Today we have back with us Greg DuPont, who's the founder of Advocate Wealth Solutions, and we'll be talking about making informed financial decisions. Greg, welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having me back, Mike.
Hey, I know that this is really a tough topic for a lot of people because this is their life savings and this is retirement. And will I have enough money to make it to and through retirement? So all of these are really a high trust level with that advisor. So once you start working with the client and they have some fuzziness in where they're going, you've got the roadmap, but how do you help someone understand the difference between making informed decisions and being really ready to make some of these financial moves that you are laying out for them?
Mike, it's kind of, I was with a client just the other day, an estate planning client, and this poor lady, she's tortured herself over the last, 12 months with regards to some fairly core estate planning decisions. And every time she makes a decision, she revisits it. And when she revisits it, she does a deep dive into the world of, well, it used to be the world of Google. Now it's the world of ChatGPT, right?
Yeah.
This is instructive for, estate planning discussions, financial discussions, whatever, because there's so much information out there, that people are confused, and so today people are mostly well informed, but they're poorly oriented. They have all this data input that they can get when they get done talking to one of the guys that responds when they reach their hand up for Social Security information, for example. And they start trying to get that conversation in context, and so they have all of this data, they have all this knowledge that's available to them, but they don't have, the confidence. There's not the wisdom that puts it all together for them, and to help them get clarity.
That's an interesting point you bring up. And I know that we can go down a huge rabbit trail on AI these days, but I feel like what you just said needs to go a little bit deeper, because people think, I want the quick answer. I want to click something, tell me what to do. But in reality, you need that human behind the technology, whether it's software, AI, or anything. You need that human to go, okay, well, you mentioned this. Let's consider that. And to take those empathy approaches and relationship approaches. So is that something that is what you feel like is number one lacking, and then going to only get worse if it's not addressed in this day of technology and AI we're in?
It's absolutely going to get worse. And what's happening is, many people, when they become confused, well, as you know, confused mind doesn't commit, so they don't take any action. Some get so baffled with the BS that they do take action, but then they don't have any understanding of why they did what they did. So they get buyer's remorse, right? They don't see how their decision, whatever they did, connects with everything else in their picture. And a lot of times those people that are making those decisions are reacting to urgency and fear that the quote unquote salesman or woman is structuring so that they get them to close, as opposed to having a process that the consumer has gone through, so that they feel confident that they're ready to make a decision, that they've got less noise and they're calmer about making the decision. And most importantly, they have, fewer, regrets and thoughts about, well, what if I missed something?
Yeah.
And that's what a structured process does to help somebody become ready to make the decision. It slows things down. It organizes decisions in the right order, and it replaces pressure with perspective.
I think probably you could make a bumper sticker off of that one phrase you just said. It replaces pressure with perspective. And that's huge, because we all want to respond, not react. And we don't want to be in the position to react to a market change or an inflation or a tax or a market volatility and react. We want to respond to go, okay, Greg told me that was going to happen. And so now we're just going to watch the plan unfold. So talk a little bit about what that does to actually clients' peace of mind when they understand the process. They're ready to make those decisions. They've seen you come alongside and help and educate through that. And then when they see those kind of bumps and whatnot, it doesn't create more static.
When you get more orientation as a buyer, right, or as the person experiencing the process, when you get more orientation and you're not rushed to a decision, it results in more understanding of what the ramifications are. As we go through our process, first we start with getting the clarity on where we are and what the implications of that are. And then, co-creating, as it were, the solutions to those things. So the consumer doesn't feel like somebody came down from the mountaintop with a pre-canned solution that they're saying this is what you need to do. That may have worked years ago, but that's not working now.
Yeah.
And it wasn't healthy years ago.
Yeah.
Now, with the advent of the modern era, there's so much information out there, and it's very easy for the consumer that has some question as to what they just did, what the hell just happened, to start going down rabbit paths trying to get clarity on that. And then they end up getting even more confused by what they just did.
Yeah, that's just so huge. So let's talk about what does it actually look like? What does a healthy financial decision process look like? Because I think that too many times people don't focus in on that concept of process. It's like, oh, I need this, I'm going to make that. But shouldn't there be a process to making that decision? What does that look like in real life?
Yeah, a healthy process always starts with understanding, not recommendations. So if you're experiencing, product recommendations early on in a conversation, that's a definite red flag. Because before there are solutions, there must be clarity. And before there's action, there has to be alignment between you as the buyer, your understanding of the problem, and your understanding of the solutions. And if there's dissonance in there in any way, shape, or form, then there's going to be regret and remorse.
Yes, it reminds me of begin with the end in mind. You got to know where you're headed, and then know what you want, and then see where you're at now, and then make the move to close that gap.
Yeah, and with that end in mind, these decisions, that the consumer has to make, that they're making with their guide, they have to be looked at in a holistic way, considering the legal, financial, tax, and family implications, at the same time. Those all have to be looked at together, not in isolation, because when they are looked at in isolation, that's when siloed advice creates unintended consequences.
Ooh, that's huge. Siloed advice, because it might make total sense if that's all if you had the blinders on and you looked at this decision, whatever that might be, makes total sense. But in relation to the other things, we didn't take into consideration the tax implication, the legal implication, that kind of thing. So what about that approach, that holistic approach? How should people expect their advisor to help them stay in control without being rushed or sold to, but also in light of what you just said there, of having kind of that holistic 360-degree approach?
Well, I like to think that process unfolds in stages. First, we get oriented. We get an understanding where we are, as I keep saying, clarity, right? To understand exactly where we are. And then part of that is organizing ourselves, right? Then when we have that together, then we can move into decisions. but not everything is decided at once. We gotta have a process that we're walking through getting there. And, the hallmarks of a trustworthy process is, number one, there's no rush. Why do we have to make decisions today? No pressure. If you're not feeling comfortable with it, then there's something wrong. Either you don't understand what's going on there, or your amygdala is triggering that there's something wrong here.
Yeah.
That we need to do. So we gotta be in touch with ourselves that way, and typically those feelings come because the quote unquote advisor is jumping into product conversations before the client has any context on why these things are there. So when the process is right, you feel in control. Decisions feel deliberate, not reactive, and you end up with confidence instead of anxiety.
Yeah. So I know that it's almost like I've said many times when I hear people like yourself talking about how you help your clients succeed, it sounds like you're almost a life coach of sorts. Like you're guiding them through life, in making financial and retirement decisions. But also, I feel like what you just said there makes you feel like also being a psychologist. Like, oh, I need to assess, and so makes me think, what are some of the triggers, flags, conditions, or signals that tell you that a client might kind of need a little bit of extra guidance emotionally or cognitively to make a decision like that, where it's like they might even say, yeah, I understand, but maybe they don't? What are some of the things that you're watching for to help them make sure that clarity is there?
Well, Mike, that's part of 30 plus years of sitting in a room with people, whether it's in a estate planning conversation or in the aftermath of an estate where the family is dealing with the death, or financial conversations. It's just, you gain some insight when, and I underscore this, when you are able to be present and hold space with that client to help them, feel comfortable in sharing their disease. And that's where you separate the good advisors from the not so good advisors, and where good advisors will always have a place in this world that is driven by knowledge being everywhere.
Yeah. And that's another huge piece that just brings to my mind when you say knowledge being everywhere. It's like, knowledge is power. Not really, because knowledge is just information. You got to put it into action to make it to be power. So people these days have chat, AI, Google that can give them all kinds of financial tips, strategies, ideas, advice. But is it in the right sequence, at the right time, in the right strategy for what you're looking to achieve? And that's where that human element comes in. I think that's a big point that you bring up.
Well, it's a real difficult dance. When you're talking about, somebody with, this savings, which represents their lifetime of work, all in a 401k balance, an IRA balance. This is not money to them. That's the reflection of a life of saving and scrimping. And next thing you know, you've gone through some form of rabbit path, and the person that you've are talking to wants to take control of that in one way or the other. And if they're not, if that person that wants to be the advisor is not sensitive to the emotional trauma that can be there, then they're just going to exacerbate the situation. But to your point earlier about knowledge is power and all that kind of malarkey, we got to take action. And so that's really what is the real challenge is, when do I, as you put it, as a life coach almost, when do I take a more affirmative step and lead the client into a decision that is in their best interest? And if we've got a process that is set up, that is building confidence, building context, building clarity, then it's much easier for the client to say, okay, you're right. I see life has changed. I've got to do this, and I'm comfortable making that decision now. Let's move forward.
Yeah. And then that kind of thinking sequentially through that process, once they make that decision, how do you help to make sure that they don't have that cognitive dissonance you alluded to, like, regret, like, oh, that was a big decision, like a week later or whatever, like they all leave the office high-fiving, but then a week later it's like, what have I done? How do you make sure that is solidified in their mind?
That's actually a great challenge to the industry, because sometimes the people that have the money right now that you're now moving to your control or what have you, they don't want to give it up. The financial industrial complex can make the transition a little bit noisier than it has to be. Sometimes it's breaking partnerships that have been established for years that may have gotten to the point where they no longer serve the client's best interest, but they still have to break what is a friendship of form, right? You're not with an advisor for 10 years without being at least friendly with them. These are real challenges that the consumer has to go through, and the best way to try to deal with that is to be in communication, to try to give them some heads up on some of the challenges that might be down the road. That hey, we might have to send this thing back to the compliance department a couple times because of A, B, and C with your situation. Hey, this is nothing to worry about. This is not unusual. This is them being a backstop to what we've already determined to be in your best interest, and they're going to confirm that as well. So just letting them know what is going to happen, as opposed to having them see all these unexpected things come up, which just exacerbates the underlying concerns they might have had that they overcame to make the decision, but now they're going to say, "Nah, I'm not comfortable anymore."
Yeah. And when you do it the right way, or if an advisor does it the right way and they've educated and explained and made it clear, then you actually are, the client doesn't need to know all the underlying intricacies that you went through in your, training and all that, but they get it. They feel like, yeah, I understand that aspect. We want to protect this. We want to move this. We want this percentage here. We want to prepare for that. And when it's done the right way, then guess what? I would even say this, that one of the backstops is they don't feel overwhelmed or confused because they know that every so often, quarterly, every 6 months or whatever the time frame is, they're going to be coming in with you, whether it's phone, Zoom, or in person, and having that review so that they don't feel confused or overwhelmed and just having that checkup.
Absolutely. It's that customer service afterwards, that relationship that you'll now build. I mean, so it's interesting to see, the industry, had its way of selling, which was, hey, I'm going to give you all of this information, all this knowledge for free. I'm going to give you this plan for free, and then you're going to become a client with the idea that this is going to, so clearly illustrate your value that they're going to be happy going forward. But that was always started with trying to, kind of quote unquote, know, like, and trust, right? How chit chat and all this stuff. And you're going to become a friend as part of that. Client doesn't really want a friend. They want to be friendly, and they can't see your value until you've delivered it. So it's by definition, they really can't see what they're buying until they bought it. So it becomes a real difficult dance, which is why we've created our process so that the client can can move into it as they see fit. If they just want to get clarity at this point in their life, then okay, you're going to pay us a nominal fee for us to give you unbiased information and analysis for you to get clarity. And then if that does determine any issues that you want to fix, then okay, we're going to go to a next step of our process where we're going to show you how it can be fixed. And then if you want us to fix it, then here's how we can fix it for you. So each one of those steps along the journey, the consumer maintains control. They get to see a little bit of what can be done, and see the value of the work, as opposed to, paying the price in terms of lack of clarity, lack of certainty, because this advisor gave them a free plan, and it was just a thinly veiled attempt to sell them X, Y, or Z.
Yeah. Huge. Well, it's just so great to hear your process and hear some of the inner workings that you make sure your clients are fully taken care of, not just on the financial front, but on the emotional front, and make sure they're understanding and feeling confident. And that is so powerful. So, Greg, if someone is interested in reaching out and connecting with you, what's the best way that they can do that?
Best way to connect with me would be to shoot me an email at greg@advocatewealthsolutions.com.
Greg, thank you so much for coming back on. It's been a real pleasure chatting with you.
Mike, thank you for your time. I've enjoyed our chats.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.